Hey, my name is Andrew, and today I'm going to show you how to transition from zero drop to barefoot shoes. And if you're really ambitious, to running and walking completely barefoot. For those of you who don't know me, I started barefoot running 3 years ago while I was working as a salesman at a run specialty store, and I've been injury-free ever since. But it was hard because there wasn't much content out there, and the videos I did find were really technical and complicated and just made me feel like giving up. So this is the simple, straightforward guide I wish I had back in 2017. And in case you're wondering, you don't have to be a super athlete to try barefoot running, because the concepts I'm going to show you work just as well in your backyard as they do for road running, hiking, ultra marathons, and everything in between. So let's get into it. Back in 2017, I was dealing with a lot of injuries, and I felt like one of those people in the movie WALL-E, because whenever something went wrong, the only thing I knew how to do was buy another pair of shoes. I tried high cushion, low cushion, zero drop cushion, minimalist cushion, zero sandals, Vibram 5 fingers, and finally a pair of Vivo Barefoot Primus lights. When I got down to 3mm, my injuries finally went away, but over time, that tiny piece of rubber started to drive me crazy because I kept wondering, what would happen if I ran completely barefoot? One day I went out the door without any shoes at all, and when I ran through a local strip, people started to notice, and I was surprised too. I looked down at my feet padding silently along the pavement, felt the lack of pain in my body, the rush of wind on my skin, the alertness to everything around me, and realized this is what I've been chasing. The feeling of freedom, the feeling of taking back control of my life and subtracting cushion and support until the only thing left was my body. That's what this video is about, and whether you want to learn to walk in barefoot shoes or run completely barefoot, I'm going to show you how to make it happen. Although cushion shoes went mainstream in the 1970s, humans have been walking and running without them for thousands of years. For example, Roman soldiers used to march up to 22 miles per day, carrying 66-pound packs with nothing but thin leather sandals on their feet. Anatomically, we haven't changed much since then, so if you're looking to connect with your inner Roman, then barefoot shoes are a great place to start. First off, the goal of a barefoot shoe is to make you feel like you're running barefoot, so 3 things you want to look for are a sole that's 3 to 4mm thick and flexible in both directions, a wide foot-shaped toe box, and zero drop with no cushion. I find that around 3 to 4mm is ideal because at 5mm, you start to lose sensitivity, and that makes you clumsy, which makes everything hurt. I'm gonna put a link down below to a Notion table comparing some of the best barefoot shoes, but 2 of my favorites are the Vivo Barefoot Primus Light for road running and the Vibram V-Trek for trails. Although barefoot shoes might seem like the obvious next step after cushion shoes, going straight to full barefoot running actually has some benefits. In the book Lost Connections, Johan Hari talks about how he was poisoned by an apple in Vietnam, and at the hospital he begs for painkillers, but the doctor says, "You need your nausea. It is a message. It will tell us what is wrong with you." In the same way, running without footwear can be painful at first, but pain is a very swift teacher, and I learned more in my first 2 weeks of running barefoot than I learned in 3 years with barefoot shoes and even 20 years with cushion shoes. Overall, you can't go wrong with either barefoot shoes or full barefoot running, but here are a few pros and cons to consider. Durability. The average cushion shoe lasts about 300 to 500 miles, while my Vivo Barefoot Primus Lights have lasted more than 3,000 so far. Callus regenerates, so bare feet can last a lifetime. Price. Over 50 years, you'll spend about $15,000 on cushion shoes versus only $2,500 for barefoot shoes. And of course, barefoot running is free. Performance. Cushion shoes gradually break down, so it's easy for injuries to sneak up on you, but barefoot shoes and callus feel exactly the same after 1 mile as they do after 3,000 miles, so you always have that solid baseline. Sensitivity. Cushioned shoes provide no sensitivity, barefoot shoes provide some sensitivity, and full barefoot provides full sensitivity. Protection. Cushioned shoes have the most protection, but they don't build callus. Barefoot shoes do a bit of both, and barefoot builds lots of callus, but you do always have to be on the watch for glass and other sharp objects. And finally, difficulty. Cushioned shoes are easy but teach you bad form. Barefoot shoes are moderate but teach you good form, and full barefoot running is difficult but it teaches you perfect form. There are literally thousands of stretches and warm-up drills and exercise plans out there, but the truth is that you only need one. I call it the tightrope. The great thing about this technique is that you can use it for both barefoot walking and running, and you can learn it in 3 simple steps. If you tap different parts of your foot on the ground, you'll notice that your heel makes a big thunk noise and the shock goes straight up your leg, while your forefoot hardly makes any noise and feels soft. This is because your forefoot is designed for absorbing impact, while your heel is meant to bear the weight of your body as you push off. So, a good forefoot stride happens in 3 parts. First, you touch the ground with the largest joint of your pinky toe. Next, you roll inwards onto the other toes. And finally, you come to a gentle stop with your body weight centered over your heel. Touch, roll, stop. When you're comfortable with the basic motion, you can turn it into a forefoot walk. Rather than bounce up and down, you want to keep your stride smooth, like you're flowing across an invisible tightrope. If you're used to walking with a heel strike, this can feel awkward at first, but after practicing for a few days, you'll get the hang of it. You don't have to walk forefoot all the time though. I like to switch back and forth so I don't overuse certain joints and muscle groups. Once you master forefoot walking, you can transition to forefoot running simply by increasing your speed. You want to keep your stride short and your knees bent because the farther your foot is from your body, the more your ankle has to rotate and the straighter your knee has to be, which puts strain on your joints. Another common mistake is not letting your heels touch the ground, which can overload your calf muscles. Finally, instead of pushing upwards, you want to drive your knees forward, which engages all your leg muscles instead of just your calves. The #1 rule of driving is keep your eyes on the road, and the same goes for barefoot running because it only takes a second of distraction to step on a stone or a piece of broken glass, so you always want to be scanning the ground in front of you. In the first couple weeks, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but as you practice, you'll learn to read different types of terrain automatically, just like becoming fluent in a foreign language. The easiest place to start barefoot running is on grass because it's soft and you're less likely to step on anything dangerous. Local parks and football fields are 2 solid options, but if you don't have any of those near you, you can just practice the tightrope drill in your driveway or on your living room floor. The only downside of grass is that it's too soft to build callus. Hiking or trail running will give your feet more of a challenge, and they're still pretty safe, although it's good to carry a backup pair of shoes or sandals in case you have to cross wooden boardwalks where there might be splinters or rusty nails. When it comes to elevation, I like to go hard on the uphills because of lower impact and then pull back on the downhills, weaving left and right to slow myself down. Also, don't be afraid to get muddy. Part of the fun of barefoot running is treating yourself to an all-you-can-eat buffet of sensory feedback. While the roads are the most difficult to run on, they're also the fastest way to build callus. When it's safe, the center of the road tends to have fewer stones, and if your feet get tired, you can always run off on the grass for a while. Also, you want to slow down or even walk when you come to big patches of loose gravel because they're almost impossible to navigate at full speed. Overall, it's totally possible to run barefoot on roads of 0 injuries, but the uniformity and the tilt of roads is not ideal, so you want to make sure you're eating a balanced diet that includes grass and trails whenever possible. Back in 2017, I was in shape to run a 4:30 mile in cushioned shoes. But when I went on my first barefoot run, I barely made it to the end of the street because my feet and calves were burning. The point is, no matter how fit you think you are, barefoot running is like starting from scratch. So rather than trying to follow some complicated training plan that's gonna fall apart on day 1, it's much better just to build a simple daily routine. Here's what I would do if I was starting over today. Barefoot running can be overwhelming at first, so it helps to pick a 3-mile loop and just do a little more of it each day as you get stronger, build callus, and learn the terrain. Trails and grass fields are the easiest to run on, but roads will help you build callus and advance your skills much faster, so take your pick. Also, I would recommend starting out completely barefoot because you never know how much you might enjoy it, and if you do, that'll save you from spending $150 on a pair of barefoot shoes that you didn't actually need. When you go out for the first time, your feet and calves are gonna get beat up, so keep your pace slow and don't worry if all you can manage is a quarter mile. Instead, you wanna focus on staying present and constantly checking in with yourself by asking, how are my toes? Are my hips okay? My breathing deeply, or my muscles getting tired? If something starts to hurt, you can experiment with shortening your stride and adding some more bend to your knees, but if that doesn't work or you feel your form start to break down, then it's time to turn around. And remember, you can always go out for another run, but you can't undo damage once you've done it. Once you've mastered your 3-mile loop, you can start to experiment with different speeds and mileage and terrain, but rather than exercise, think of your runs as mini adventures where the normal rules don't apply. If you want to walk or sit on a bench or have a conversation, just do whatever feels good. And finally, unless you need them for safety reasons, I would leave your phone, music, and GPS watch at home because the whole point of barefoot running is to reconnect with the world around you, and technology just tends to get in the way of that. Barefoot running is a skill that you pick up naturally with practice, but I'm going to give you a head start by sharing 7 techniques I use all the time to deal with stones and other ULOs, aka unidentified lying objects. Number 1, scanning. Like a rock climber, you always want to be scanning the ground ahead of you so you can plan a route and figure out which moves you're going to need. As Professor Moody would say, constant vigilance. Number 2, collapse. If you do step on something sharp, the easiest way to deal with it is by collapsing your first leg and shifting all your body weight onto your second leg as you fall forward. Number 3, scrunch. When you get a rock under your forefoot, you can deal with it by scrunching your toes to lift the pad of your foot off the ground. Number 4, lift. Similar to scrunch, if you step on something with your heel, you can lift your foot up onto your toes. Number 5, flatten. If you come across a patch of loose gravel, shorten your stride and keep your feet low to create as much surface area as possible. Number 6, wipe. Especially when it's hot or humid, stones tend to stick to your feet, but you can get rid of them by running off in the grass or stopping to wipe one foot on top of the other. And number 7, flick. Occasionally you'll notice some stones on your foot mid-stride and there won't be enough time to stop or get off on the grass, so you can perform a quick little flick of your ankle to throw them off. The best piece of running advice I've ever heard comes from one of Julie Chai-Taylor's videos where she says,
I never do too much in any one day that I can't do something the next day.
Obviously you're gonna make mistakes, but the point is to keep reminding yourself to focus on the present so that long-term goals don't hijack your health and happiness. Ultimately, I stopped racing and tracking mileage and following training plans because I've seen too many runners hang up their shoes when their bodies wore out, and I'm not having that for 1 second. I've been injury-free for more than 3 years, and I have the intention to be a runner for the rest of my life. So if you feel the same way, let's talk about how to make it happen. Over time, I've found that stretching and warm-up drills actually cause injuries instead of preventing them, so I just start my runs slow and gradually increase my speed as I go. Also, especially with barefoot running, you can get lots of little cuts and scrapes on your feet, so make sure to tape anything that's sensitive before you go out. For longer runs, you can carry some band-aids or a pair of shoes or sandals if you want some extra protection. Finally, it's best to leave technology at home, but if you need your phone for safety reasons, you can put it in airplane mode or get a low-tech device like the Light Phone 2. There's no margin for error in barefoot running, so you have to stay mindful and constantly check in with yourself. When you make mistakes, they're gonna hurt, but the pain will help you fix your bad habits, as opposed to cushioned shoes, which are less painful in the short term but lead to chronic injuries over time. For example, the first week I dragged my toe on pavement twice in the same run and it hurt like hell, but I learned to pick my feet up and I've never done it since. Also, it's important not to let adrenaline hijack your decision making. When you catch yourself doing more than you should, take a deep breath and remember your #1 priority is always being able to run tomorrow. Your first 2 weeks of barefoot running are gonna be hard, so if you overdo it one day, just take some time off and let your body recover. If you decide to run full barefoot, your feet are gonna get dirty, so just wash them off with a damp cloth. It's best to use filtered water because town and city water tends to be really harsh. Also, you should avoid using Neosporin and wearing Band-Aids for more than a few hours because they tend to trap bacteria and prevent your skin from healing. Finally, if you have sensitive spots in your feet, try walking slower and more carefully as opposed to using a limp because favoring one part of your body can actually lead to injuries in another. I get a lot of questions from people asking why they should try barefoot running when super athletes like Eliud Kipchoge are running in super cushioned Nikes with high-tech carbon fiber plates, and to that I say barefoot running is not about setting records, it's about reconnecting with the world around you and getting to a place where you can run happy for the rest of your life. That said, barefoot running can be hard, so here are 3 rules that you need to follow if you want to transition successfully. Number 1, listen to your body. Number 2, don't wear anything thicker than 4 millimeters. And number 3, never do too much one day that you can't go out running the next. Whew. I know that was a lot of information, so I've put a link down below to a checklist with step-by-step instructions on how to transition to barefoot running. And I've also time-stamped the video in case you need to re-watch a certain part. If you have a question about barefoot running or you want to request a future video topic, drop a comment down below. Also, thank you for watching this video and have fun with your transition because you only get to do it once. Peace.